So once you properly create your Premiere Pro project, you're ready for the next step, which is to begin editing. Now, in the previous lesson, I mentioned that once you create your project, like I've just done now, in fact, my project is completely empty. It's blank. There's nothing in it. I don't even have a sequence in my timeline, which is what I want to show you how to do in this lesson. I want to show you how to properly create a sequence. But before I do that, I do want to pick up where we left off in the previous lesson, which is after you create your project, then you can import your media to review it and make sure that it's all there and that it properly transferred from the cards that you used in the cameras that you used to capture the media with. And so I'll do this quickly. I'm going to import this media from a DSLR camera. A lot of you are editing footage from DSLR cameras, and in this particular folder there's video and photos. So I'm going to control click on this folder real quick and select import, and when I do that I'll get a little error message window. Don't panic when you see this. This basically is saying that there are files that your camera created that Premiere doesn't need. And this is actually very normal. So simply click on the OK button and then navigate over to the bin now. This is called a bin in Premiere. And you can click on this little triangle to the left of the bin, and you can double click on any of these items so that it loads up into the source window to make sure that yes, that information did transfer over correctly from the card onto your editing project drive. And of course you can see here that I have photos and I also have video. So if I double click on any one of these, it should load up over here, and I can mouse click on the playhead to scrub through the video, and yes. And of course, after you've confirmed that they're all there, you can reuse your card or you can save it until you're done with the project and feel good about that. So this is going to be pretty straightforward because all this media came from a DSLR. In fact, I'm going to scroll over with my mouse to make sure that the resolution is 1920 by 1080, which I believe it is. There it is, 1920 by 1080. This is very common to edit footage from a DSLR or any camera that shoots 1920 by 1080. I can do one of several things. I can simply click on one of the clips, mouse click, and drag it down into my timeline window and let it go, and Premiere will automatically create the proper sequence. It's that simple. In fact, there's the clip. You'll notice back over here in my project window that there is the icon for the new sequence, and I can change the name here. So let's do that. I'll gently click in the text to the right of the icon, and I'll just call this DSLR footage, just like that. And down in my sequence that I've just created, my first clip is down in the sequence. I can mouse click on this playhead and drag it and scrub through the video, and I can also hear the audio, and I can see the audio meters to the right, so reference the audio. And now it's just a matter of I can take each clip, drag it, and drop it into my sequence and begin to assemble my movie in my new sequence from left to right to build my movie. I mean, it's that simple. Now, there are other ways that I want to show you real quick. In fact, I'm going to close this sequence out. I'm going to navigate over to the upper left-hand corner of this sequence. I'm going to click on the X right there, and that sequence will go away. And I'm going to close this bin here real quick by clicking on this triangle up here. And I'm going to navigate down to a different folder where I used a traditional video camera to capture footage with. And it really doesn't matter to Premiere, by the way, what camera you use. Premiere is very forgiving with all codecs, all resolutions, and all frame rates. That's how cool Premiere is. I mean, it really handles just about anything you throw at it. And if it doesn't handle it for some reason, it will soon handle it because Adobe's really good at updating their software to handle the newer codecs that are being introduced almost on a monthly basis by all the major manufacturers. So I'm going to navigate up to this new folder here, and I used I'll just call it a traditional video camera. It's not a DSLR. And I have video clips here. In fact, I'll just double click on one of these items. And I can scrub through the video now and review it. And basically I can then control click on this item. And from the drop-down list, I can select New Sequence from Clip, and then Premiere will automatically create a sequence to properly match the parameters of whatever video clip I just selected. And then again, it's just a matter of there's my new sequence there. I can click on the text there and type in whatever I'd like, and then I can continue to assemble my movie either by dragging the clip straight from my project window or double clicking on the item so that it loads up in the source window. And I do talk about building and assembling your movie in a different lesson. So those are the couple of quick ways. Oh, and by the way, there's a couple other quick ways that I want to show you. I'm actually going to close this out real quick. I'm going to close this sequence out. And I'll go back up to this DSLR bin here, and I'll double click on another video clip that's there. In fact, let's go with this one. Double click on that. And There we go. I can do the following. I can also mouse click on this clip and drag it into what looks like a page peel to me. Down here in the bottom right hand corner, I can mouse click on that and drop it. That will also create a sequence. Or I can navigate straight up to the top, mouse click on the word file, select new sequence. And this is really the old traditional way. If you happen to be very familiar with the different codecs that are out there, and you're familiar with the codec that your camera is using, then you can dial in one of these options. And there's a lot of options here. I happen to shoot a lot of my footage in XTCam EX. I also shoot a lot on DSLRs. And you can go through here, and here's digital SLR, which is where you'd find the common codecs or settings for DSLR cameras. You would simply click on the one that's most appropriate to you. You can see the preset description over here on the right hand side. Most DSLR cameras are shooting H.264, which this will confirm over here on the right. And then you can simply type in the name of this sequence. I won't do that now, but you then can click on the OK button, and that will also create a sequence for you. I really think the auto way, as I'll call it, when you simply click on one of these items and you drag it down into an empty timeline window to create your sequence, is probably the quickest and even most accurate way, because Premiere will automatically match everything so that it just works. So that's a great way to go. One other item that I do want to bring up, I'll go back to my my sequence here where I have a video clip. 1920 by 1080 video clip. I don't know if you noticed, but in this particular folder or bin, you'll see here that my video clips are 1920 by 1080. And I do talk about this in a different lesson, but I just want to give you a quick heads up about this. A lot of you are mixing photos with video, and you're doing it in the same timeline, or sequence that is, which is okay. But you can see here the resolution is totally higher than video. And the idea is, if you're going to deliver this in video, which is the reason why you're here in Premiere, you're going to need to deliver it typically 1920 by 1080, which is the current standard for delivery. So this is going to be a much higher resolution item that you're going to drop down into your sequence. So I'll grab this photo real quick to show you what happens when I mouse click and drag this down into my sequence that's 1920 by 1080, which is the same resolution as the video. And for my final delivery, you'll see here that the photo, if I park my playhead on it, in fact, let me zoom in real quick, I can drag my playhead over it and it doesn't look like anything like the photo that's in the source window. That's because Premiere, in my settings, and I talk about this in a different lesson too, it imported, Premiere that is, imported all these photos and left them native resolution, or left them in their native resolution. So a quick fix, control click on the photo, select set to frame size. You could go with scale. My preference is set to frame size, and I explain the difference in a different lesson, but I'm going to go with set to frame size. And when I do that, voila, Premiere automatically scales it to fit within my sequence, although you can see black on the left and black on the right, and that would appear in my final video, by the way. So I would simply double click on this item here, ignore what you see there, go up to the Effects Controls tab, and here in the motion, I would then go to my scale option here. You can see it's at 28%. I would then mouse click and drag it to the right. You can see there I'm actually scaling into it. Then I can click on this motion part right here, or double click on this item. Then I can move it around to select the region that I want to see. And as a matter of fact, if I click on this fit button here and I select 50%, you'll see here the outer edges are the part of the photo that I do not see. And that's because the aspect ratio of most photos do not and will not match the aspect ratio of video. And that's the only other way around it to bring photos with video in the same sequence, is that you want to scale your photo to match the aspect ratio of your video. So there's a little quick tip for you. But anyway, that is how you create a sequence, you guys. It's awesome. There's a lot of great ways to do that. And you can go through and practice how you want and utilize the way that I showed you, whichever way you like. And once you're comfortable with doing that, you're then ready to move on to the next lesson.